I went to find Andrew with my pregnancy test report in hand, but it was his first love who opened the door. The girl smiled apologetically. He just fell asleep. Is there something you need? I looked at her smeared lipstick and her slightly trembling legs. My voice remained calm. Just tell him there's a document in the study at home that needs his signature. As I left, the whole company was buzzing. They were discussing what method Andrew Sterling would use this time to force me into a divorce, but none of them knew. This time, I was the one who didn't want him anymore. By the time I stepped off the elevator, my legs felt weak. I never thought Serena would come back, or that she would shut me out like she was the mistress of the house. Thinking of Serena's flushed face, an image floated into my mind. Andrew's lean, muscular chest beneath his meticulous white shirt, and the low gasps he would make when lost in passion. At that thought, I stopped in my tracks, almost masochistically. I needed to tell him I was pregnant. When I stood at the door again, Andrew was already awake. Through the door, his voice was husky and sexy. Victoria, did you come to deliver another one of those meals that are elaborately plated but taste like death? Serena laughed softly. Is that how you trample on a girl's good intentions when I'm not around? Her tone was calm and indifferent. She didn't sound like she was talking to a ruthless CEO, but rather lecturing a green teenager. I can see that no one in the company likes her very much, but she keeps throwing herself at you. Why don't you just tell security not to let her see you? My heart sank. Andrew hadn't even told her we were married, as I expected. Andrew's hand holding his coffee paused. After a long while, he whispered, "She is my wife." Under Serena's stunned gaze, he articulated every word clearly. "For years after you left, I followed my grandfather's dying wish and married Victoria." A long silence followed. No one spoke. It wasn't until Assistant Lee came over to deliver files and shouted in surprise, "Madam, I thought you left." The door opened. We stared at each other awkwardly for a few seconds. Serena picked up her bag in embarrassment, forced a smile, and said bitterly, "I have things to do. You two talk." As she passed Andrew, he raised his hand to grab her arm, but she pushed him away. Serena's face was flushed with anger. "Don't touch me." Even I was knocked off balance in the commotion. Assistant Lee supported me, saying, "Careful." Only then did Andrew finally notice me. He rubbed his brow in exhaustion and said coldly, "I'm not in the mood for your nonsense today. Lee, send her. I have something very important to say." I reached into my bag. Andrew grew even more impatient. "Get out. It concerns a life. It's already 2 months old." The second half of the sentence was stuck in my throat, cut off by his stern voice. "If you don't want to live, then go die." Andrew lifted his eyelids slightly, his gaze ruthless and indifferent, playing the threat card. "Is that interesting to you?" Finally, he tapped the desk with one hand, reminding Assistant Lee, "Take her away." My heart died completely. I turned around and threw the pregnancy test report into the trash can. On the way out, everyone was still discussing what means Andrew would use to force a divorce this time. After all, in the past 3 years, he had used huge sums of money as bait, used threats, and even faked his own death. Everyone in the company had acted along with him. Every time. In the end, I firmly and infatuatedly said, "I want divorce." I always felt that since Andrew married me, there would come a day when he would be moved by me. By the way, Assistant Lee, I stopped, feeling a desolation I had never felt before. "Remember to remind Andrew to sign the documents in the study when he gets home." As I got into the car, I clearly heard Assistant Lee muttering with a colleague behind me, "Couldn't she just say it herself? She really thinks she's the CEO's wife. She's played this hard to get game 800 times. I'm tired of it." Exactly. She's acting all cold and angry now, but once she gets home, who knows how she'll be begging for Mr. Sterling's attention. I shouted for the driver to stop, preparing to get out and confront them. But then I suddenly realized that Andrew had long tacitly allowed the people in the company to treat me with contempt. Even if I argued, I would be the one losing face. "Let's go." I leaned against the car window, feeling inexplicably exhausted in body and mind. I couldn't imagine what the consequences would be if an illegitimate daughter like me, fit only for a political marriage, angered the new noble of the wealthy elite. Watching the scenery flash by outside the window, I, who had always been timid and cowardly, had a rebellious thought for the first time. I wanted to escape to a place without a venomous stepmother, a cold father, and certainly without Andrew. The divorce agreement had been drafted by Andrew himself. Copies were scattered in various corners of the study. I picked the one with the most generous asset allocation and signed my name neatly. I wondered how happy Andrew would be to see that I had voluntarily signed the divorce papers. I placed the agreement in the most conspicuous spot on the desk, then started booking flight tickets and packing my luggage. I busied myself until late at night. I was lying in bed, groggy and about to fall asleep, when Andrew came back. He stood at the door. I don't know why, but he stared into the dark room for a long time. I didn't leave a light on for him like before, nor did I throw myself at him acting spoiled and saying I missed him. Instead, I turned over, blocking the light from the doorway, and continued to sleep. Victoria. I didn't know if it was an illusion, but I seemed to hear a trace of uneasiness in Andrew's voice. I thought I was fully prepared, but hearing his voice, my nose still tingled with the urge to cry. Victoria. He slowly took off his suit jacket and walked to the bed. He looked down at me from above, then took off his watch. Before I could react, overwhelming kisses rained down. Andrew worked his way down, repeatedly murmuring, Victoria. Seeing that I didn't actively hook my arms around his neck, Andrew whispered against my ear, Victoria, be good. Looking at his face full of lust, I felt anxious. The doctor had explicitly stated that intercourse was forbidden during early pregnancy. It was dangerous. I pushed hard a few times, but could only touch Andrew's solid chest muscles. I was frantic. Just as I was about to blurt out the pregnancy, I was interrupted by Andrew's phone. The ringtone was piercing and sharp in the silent night. Andrew. It was Serena. You really are a bastard. Her voice carried a sobbing tone as she added, Andrew, I miss you so much. Andrew's hand on my lower back froze, and his lust quickly faded. He sat up quickly, his voice serious. Are you at a bar? There was a rustling sound on the other end, accompanied by Serena's slow sobbing. Andrew asked several times, but no one answered. Just as his patience was running out, the phone was picked up by someone else. You're Andrew, right? I'm a friend of Serena's. The woman's voice was calm but carried a hint of judgment. The first thing she did when she returned to the country was excitedly look for you, saying you would definitely give her a title this time. But when she came back, she looked dejected. She wouldn't say anything, just kept drinking. I don't know what you did to hurt her. I just know that Serena really needs you right now. The air seemed to freeze. Andrew held the phone and stood up without saying a word, but I could clearly see the veins popping on his forehead. Finally, Andrew made a decision. Send me the location. He went into the bathroom, spent a long time fixing himself in the mirror, and then hurried out the door. By the way, Andrew took a step back and asked calmly, what were you about to say earlier? I smiled. Nothing. The door slammed shut. I let out a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Great. Tomorrow, I would be gone. Between Andrew and me, he had always held the power. He said agreeing to marry me would make my life easier before the wedding. He said that since his grandfather had passed away, he didn't love me and wanted a divorce. He said that since we weren't divorcing, I should fulfill my wifely duties and stop being abstinent. Then he said he had gotten used to having me around, and spending the rest of our lives together was a tolerable compromise. In short, whatever Andrew said, went, and I was used to expressing my love without reservation, trying to grasp the only hope in my life. But this time, I didn't want to rely on anyone else. I thought, perhaps I could take good care of myself all alone. This time, I didn't wait for Andrew. I locked the door and slept until dawn. I was woken up by noise. I never lacked jewelry, but this necklace is quite special. Serena's voice was coquettish and cute. I was instantly alert. For Andrew to bring her home at this hour, other than to divorce me and give her a title, I couldn't think of any other purpose. When I opened the door, Serena was happily holding something up to her neck, comparing it in the mirror. Her tone was excited. Does it look good, Andrew? And the usually cold Andrew turned sideways and smiled. Extremely gentle. Yes, but I still can't let you off that easily. Serena pouted. I have to think carefully about what request to make. Before she finished, she saw me standing at the door and exclaimed in surprise, Victoria, you're awake. Andrew stood awkwardly in place, as if explaining, last night, I was with her at the hospital until late. I ignored him. Instead, I stared straight at the necklace around Serena's neck without thinking. I reached out and ripped it off. Following Serena's scream, Andrew strode over. He grabbed my wrist and shouted sternly, Victoria, are you crazy? Serena even said she made you misunderstand yesterday and came specifically to apologize. Serena covered the red mark on her fair neck, tears falling instantly. Yes, I even made breakfast specifically for you, but as soon as you came out, after speaking, she looked at Andrew with grievance. Forget it. I was young and impulsive when I left back then. Maybe I shouldn't have come back. Watching their tragic play of unrequited love, I sneered. This is the only keepsake my mother left me. Andrew, I don't care how you show your love, just don't touch my things. Andrew's expression gradually became gloomy. His face sank. Your things. Andrew looked down at me and asked rhetorically, which part of your food, clothing, housing, or transportation wasn't given by the Sterling family? His face was scary. He snatched the necklace back. Serena likes it. Wear it. I looked at him in disbelief. At 15, not long after being taken back to the Jennings family, my mother passed away. The only thing she left me was this necklace. I cherished it and had always kept it in the safe. I never expected that one day this necklace would become a tool for Andrew's courtship. I tried to snatch it back like a madwoman several times. Every time, I was pushed away by Andrew's cold face. Finally, after noticing the provocative look in Serena's eyes, I quieted down. I raised my hand and slapped Andrew hard across the face. I glared at him and said, word by word, Andrew, if you're sick, go to the hospital, don't bark here. Only then did Serena step in, gently soothing Andrew. She expressed that if she caused us to quarrel, she would feel very guilty. Victoria, have some breakfast. Andrew and I made it ourselves. Serena pushed the sullen-faced Andrew onto the sofa and began bustling around like the lady of the house. Andrew said you're not picky, so I just made whatever. There were only 2 steaks left, so Andrew and I each had one. Is a fried egg okay for you? I looked at Serena and found it funny. After taking the necklace from Andrew, she naturally put it back on her own neck. It seemed like a declaration of war against me. I knew I was always at a disadvantage on Andrew's turf, but I didn't want to endure it anymore. I raised my hand and the expensive and beautiful tableware crashed to the floor. Soup splashed onto Serena's calf. She shrieked, "You're crazy." And the silent Andrew finally reached the limit of his patience. He immediately called the butler and said coldly, "The madam is emotionally unstable. Have her move elsewhere. Immediately, when she realizes her mistake, she can come back." I was surprised. This time, Andrew didn't mention divorce, just told me to move out. Right. He probably thought I couldn't live without him. Not seeing him would be the greatest punishment for me. I nodded calmly and picked up my suitcase. Looking at the furious but restraining Andrew, I held the divorce agreement up to his face. "You haven't signed the document yet." Serena was gently stroking his chest, perfectly blocking the content of the contract. Andrew's face was terribly dark. He didn't say a word, just waved his hand dismissively. "Get out." I figured he was afraid I would disturb his intimacy with his first love. He didn't want any more trouble. I put away the divorce agreement and turned to leave decisively. "Victoria," Serena called me. Her tone was charming and provocative. "Take out the trash on your way, will you?" I didn't stop, even as the butler muttered in my ear, "Just apologize, and the master will." Walking out the door, I stopped and interrupted softly, "Go back. I'll walk the rest of the way myself." Andrew stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Victoria's back as she dragged her suitcase. His face was frosty. Perhaps he didn't even notice that his knuckles were white from gripping the coffee cup too hard. "Andrew," Serena approached, comforting him gently. "Girls are cute when they have a little temper. Why be so fierce?" Andrew rubbed his brow wearily, his voice somewhat hoarse. "She is utterly willful. Is this how a wealthy wife behaves? What's the difference between her and a lunatic?" Serena's face grew serious. She was somewhat surprised. The always cold and noble Andrew had lost face because of a woman and was even slapped. Yet he endured it. And she had given up her free life for Andrew. Yet Andrew hadn't said he wanted to marry her. The atmosphere was suddenly quiet. Until the butler went upstairs and truthfully reported to Andrew, "The madam didn't want me to drive her. She insisted on walking." Seeing Andrew's ugly expression, the butler lowered his head and added, "But the suitcase isn't heavy. I guess it was an emergency, so the madam didn't bring many things. If you're really worried, go chase after her," Serena said gently. She squatted on the ground, picking up the fragments of tableware with her hands. Just like many years ago, she was a bright, sunny flower of understanding. Serena seemed blind to the cuts on her hands as she spoke to herself. "I'll leave after I clean up. I always forget that us being together was a long time ago. You're married now. We should not see each other again." She seemed to be trying her best to hide her sadness, forcing calmness. It wasn't until blood dripped onto the floor that Andrew said coldly to the butler, "Cancel all of Victoria's supplementary credit cards. I want to see how long she can stay tough this time." After speaking, he strode forward and picked Serena up with one arm. He gently wiped away her tears. "When I was 18, I said I would protect you for life. That promise stands forever. It took me a day and a night to get to South City. The Jennings family had 2 younger sons. They wished I wouldn't come home and would never contact the family again. So, no one noticed that I had left my marriage and run away. I was happy to be relaxed. After renting an apartment, I picked up my paintbrush again. In a trance, it seemed like I had returned to the year I just got married. watching me work, Andrew had coldly said. Disgraceful. He said no wealthy wife needed to show her face in public to earn a little money. Thinking of Andrew's forever condescending, forever high and mighty attitude, I couldn't help but shiver. Fortunately, those days were finally over. I left all of Andrew's supplementary cards in the bedside drawer of the study. I didn't take a single one. I was just waiting for the right time to finalize the divorce with Andrew and get back the assets that belonged to me. But for the current me, I didn't need them. Right now, I just wanted a stable and peaceful life. Occasionally, I would see news of Andrew and Serena attending various banquets together. They stood side by side, a perfect couple. Someone asked, "Is there good news coming for Mr. Sterling and Ms. Serena?" Andrew just stared at the camera with dark eyes, saying nothing. Every time, Serena would smile gently to defuse the situation. "We have our own pace. Please don't pay too much attention." Although she said that, everything she wore, even the hairpins in her hair, were treasures Andrew had won at auctions by outbidding everyone. No one dared to offend Andrew, and no one dared to disrespect Serena. As the two became more intimate, the former Mrs. Sterling was gradually forgotten. People only heard that Mrs. Sterling was kicked out of the house by Andrew for being too willful and playing hard to get too much. Others said she felt ashamed after seeing Andrew's true love, so she stole money and ran away. When I heard these rumors, I just treated them as jokes. I had more commission requests than I could handle. Where would I find the mind to care about that? Until 5 years later, I heard that an ignorant 4-year-old girl had offended the person at the tip of Andrew's heart. At that moment, my hand holding a cake froze. Watching the domineering Andrew on the big screen stood in front of Serena and said coldly, "I won't allow anyone to hurt Serena, even if it's a 4-year-old child. I will make that brat's family pay a painful price." Even after 5 years, seeing Andrew's aggressive face still scared me a little. Those admirations and loves had long faded. For him, only disgust and hate remained. I didn't know what happened. I just wanted to quickly take the cake to pick up Mia and celebrate her birthday. But just as I stood at the school gate, I saw her teacher running over in a panic. "MIA's mom. It's bad." My heart sank. Andrew's face inexplicably floated into my mind. But then I thought, Mia couldn't possibly have contact with Serena. Even if they met by accident, she was so good. Nothing would happen. I forced myself to be calm. What happened? Did she fall or? While visiting the science museum today, Mia suddenly pounced on a woman. The teacher interrupted me, anxious. "She's never been like this." By the time I pulled her away, that woman was already injured. My breathing became rapid, and my voice trembled. "That woman, who is she?" The teacher lowered her head in guilt and self-reproach. "It's the girlfriend of the CEO of Sterling Group in North City." Splat. The cake in my hand fell to the ground, cream splattered everywhere. A sticky mess. My hand shook. I dialed that once incredibly familiar number. "Andrew, it's me, Victoria." There was silence on the other end for a long time before a husky, low voice came through. "You're good at hiding. I thought you died out there." I never thought I would see Andrew again under such sudden circumstances. Although I dreamed of completely cutting ties with him over these years, the thought of facing Andrew made me terribly anxious. That was why I dragged out the divorce. Thinking of Mia crying in fear, I was shaking with nervousness. I could only comfort myself that no matter how ruthless Andrew was, he wouldn't hurt a 4-year-old child. I clutched that divorce agreement. I told myself, no matter what, there had to be a resolution today. When I arrived at the hotel, Serena was hiding in Andrew's arms, crying incessantly. I was just sitting there, and she suddenly pounced. I hadn't seen him in a few years. Andrew hadn't changed much, just a bit more mature. Seeing me, the corners of his lips hooked up, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "What relation is that girl to you?" I looked around. There was no sign of Mia in the huge room. My eyes turned red, and I immediately questioned, "Where is Mia?" Sudden panic made my whole body tremble, and I lost control of my emotions. "Where have you hidden Mia?" Serena seemed terrified, hiding behind Andrew, timidly saying, "Is that child really Victoria's? Otherwise, just forget it." Maybe she didn't mean to jump on me, rip my necklace, and push me to the ground. There were faint bruises on her body. I gave her a vicious look, still not believing that Mia, so gentle and well-behaved, would actively attack someone. I bypassed Andrew and rushed forward from the side, grabbing Serena. "What did you do? Where did you hide my daughter?" As soon as the words fell, Andrew's hand froze in midair. He looked at me and asked in surprise, "What did you say?" As if there had never been an estrangement, Andrew leaned over and asked again, How old is she?" I had a headache. I really didn't want Mia to have anything to do with Andrew. Before I could think of what to say, My phone rang. I dodged Andrew. Ethan. Currently. In my haste, I accidentally put it on speaker. Ethan's anxious voice instantly echoed in the room. To celebrate my goddaughter's birthday. I came to queue up 2 hours early. Why haven't you arrived yet? I can't hide my surprise anymore. I was just about to tell Ethan what happened. Before I could speak, the phone was snatched by Andrew. His face was gloomy as he hung up directly. Victoria. Andrew approached step by step, grabbing my wrist. If I recall correctly, we aren't divorced yet. I struggled a few times, suddenly realizing he misunderstood my relationship with Ethan. I thought that was perfect. It would save me from getting entangled with him over Mia later. I looked up, meeting his gaze directly. I said righteously, Andrew, you were the one who cheated during the marriage first. I glanced at Serena and sneered. Besides, we signed the divorce agreement long ago. Black and white. Your own signature. Did you forget? Watching the color drain from Andrew's face, I threw him off and took the divorce agreement out of my bag. Perfect. Everyone is here today. Give Mia back to me, and I will completely fulfill the wish of you loving couple. I thought they had delayed for so long because of this paper agreement. Unexpectedly, Andrew froze in place. After a long memory, he spoke obscurely. I never wanted a divorce. Serena reacted even more strongly than I did. She widened her eyes, looking at Andrew in disbelief. Just as she was about to speak, I heard Mia crying, Mommy, I'm scared, sob after sob, like a knife stabbing straight through my heart. I glared at Andrew with disgust. Can't understand human language. Mr. Sterling, do you want your first love to be your mistress and homewrecker forever? Don't make me hate you completely, word by word, my eyes firm. Give my daughter back to me. If anything happens to Mia, even if I die, I will drag you scum couple to hell. Andrew looked at Victoria. He suddenly felt she was incredibly strange. How did that delicate, cute little girl who only knew how to cling to him and cry become like this? How could she look at him with such hateful eyes? 5 years ago, one drunken night, Andrew, emboldened by alcohol, knocked on the door of the old mansion, but half an hour passed, and he realized there was no one inside. Not only that, the empty house had no trace of anyone living there. Only then did he realize Victoria had left. Since the big fight that day, she had left. Sudden panic enveloped Andrew. He wanted to tell the media, issue announcements, search the world to find Victoria, but his pride prevented him from doing all that. Besides, Victoria loved him so much. Maybe it was just a little game of hard to get. So, he treated Serena well in every high-profile way possible. He just hoped that one day, Victoria would get jealous and couldn't bear it anymore, coming to him to reconcile. This wait lasted 5 years. He just didn't expect Victoria to seek him out because of her daughter, hers, and another man's daughter. After a long silence, Andrew lost his strength and said, Okay. The moment I saw Mia, my tense emotions finally found an outlet. Mommy. Mia's hair was messy, and her face was covered in tear stains. Seeing me, she immediately ran and threw herself into my arms. I nervously looked down to check her body. I'm sorry, Mia. Mommy is late. Are you scared? Seeing me cry, Mia hurriedly stood on tiptoe, using her small, tender hands to wipe my tears. It's okay, Mommy. Mia was good. No one bullied Mia. Saying that, she lowered her head, choking up a bit. Mia just missed Mommy a lot. I hugged Mia like a precious treasure, gently patting her back to soothe her. Finally, Andrew explained, I wouldn't go so far as to hurt a 4-year-old child. Initially, I just wanted to teach the parents a lesson. I felt relieved. Mia had been placed in the hotel room next to Andrew's. The people watching Mia even prepared snacks so she wouldn't cry continuously and cause unnecessary trouble. When I left holding Mia, I happened to meet Ethan bringing Rocky downstairs. Seeing Mia, Rocky broke free from Ethan's arms and rushed in front of us. In a milky voice, he shouted, Big sister. As we walked away side by side, Andrew stared at our backs. His face was terribly ugly. Mia was exhausted. As soon as we got in the car, she fell asleep leaning against my chest. I looked out the window, thinking that in a few days, I could completely cut ties with Andrew. I felt relieved. Mommy. Mia seemed to be dreaming, struggling a few times in my arms. She was clenching her fist tightly. I frowned, worried that Serena might have scared Mia, leaving a psychological shadow. Just as I was gently soothing Mia, her tightly clenched fist suddenly opened. An extremely vintage but visibly priceless necklace lay in Mia's palm. Her palm was sweaty. The jewels of the necklace were misty with moisture. Mommy, for you. Looking at the sleeping Mia, my breathing stopped for an instant. This necklace. It was the one Serena had snatched away. The one that should have belonged to me. My brain exploded. I suddenly remembered countless nights of cuddling. Mia would lean in my arms, looking at photos, asking curiously, "Where did Grandma go?" Every time, I couldn't help holding back tears, telling her grandma went to a faraway place. Her life was very bitter, deceived by a man when young, giving birth to me, an illegitimate daughter, getting sick early, forced to entrust me, her most cherished, to the man she hated most. I loved her the most. Mia knew that too. So, she liked to talk to Grandma's photo. In that photo, my mother was wearing this unique necklace. The news of Andrew and Serena's breakup spread everywhere overnight, especially after learning that Andrew wasn't divorced yet. National media was overwhelmed with curses and accusations against Serena. Many people couldn't stand it and went directly to find Serena, questioning her. "Is being a mistress that fun? You abandoned him at 18 to run away, played enough, and came back to find a fallback guy. Are you disgusting or what? Calling yourself a pure white flower, doing charity propaganda everywhere. I spit on you. Get out of the country." Serena's noble and cold image could no longer be maintained. Over the years, she used charity to build her persona and drive her company's development. Within a few days, all partners cancelled their contracts. There were even a few companies backed by the Sterling family that directly used means to hack Serena's company products, sued her, and demanded compensation. Facing bankruptcy, she sought Andrew many times, but she was shut out every time. When I heard this news, my heart was calm. I wasn't surprised at all. Andrew was just that kind of person. He clearly didn't do anything directly to cause her bankruptcy, but his inaction indirectly destroyed her. It was like this for Serena now. It was the same for me back then. On the day I went to finalize the divorce with Andrew, the weather was sunny. He was in a suit and tie, high-spirited, just like when I first met him, handsome and dashing. Back then, I thought effort would melt the iceberg. I thought as long as I gave, I would receive equal love. I just made a mistake that all men in the world make. Seeing me approach, Andrew's eyes were red as he explained. That day, Serena suddenly appeared after so long and kissed me passionately. How could I refuse? His tone was urgent as he grabbed my hand. "It's okay now. You also did something to betray the marriage with another man. Let's forget the past and start over." I looked at Andrew's face. I only felt unfamiliarity and disgust. I took a step back, holding Mia's hand, blocking her behind me. "Andrew, when you said if you don't want to live, go die, we were over. Those feelings of love slowly dissipated every time you tacitly allowed the whole company to humiliate me. But that Ethan is just an ordinary employee. What can he give you?" Andrew humbled himself. "He can't give the child a better life. As long as you come back to me, I can treat your child like my own flesh and blood." Perhaps my expression was too disgusted. Andrew looked hurt, staggered a step, and subconsciously was about to kneel. He wanted to propose terms again before I refused, but a car parked on the street suddenly started the next second. It accelerated continuously, like it was charging at me and Mia with all its might. I hugged Mia tight, nowhere to hide. I could only see Serena's hideous face go to hell. Bang! In front of the speeding car, blood instantly splattered. I tightly covered Mia's eyes. My body was shaking, but I dared not let go. Serena stumbled out of the car, looking at Andrew in disbelief. Why? Her face was pale, devoid of any color. She was shaking violently. Serena squatted on the ground, trying to check Andrew's breath with her hand, but retracted it in fear. 2 seconds later, as if finally regaining her sanity, she sat wretchedly on the ground, hugging her knees and wailing, "I don't believe it. Andrew, get up and tell me. The one you love most is obviously me. It should have been me. Then why would you watch coldly as I was spat on, and ignore me even when I went bankrupt?" Watching the police car arriving at the street corner, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't until Serena was put into the police car that she struggled madly against the police. Victoria is the murderer. If not for her, Andrew would have loved me forever. I didn't spare her a glance. I just held Mia's hand and made a request to the police. "While we're at it, I want to do a paternity test for Andrew and my daughter." I quietly tore that long-cherished divorce agreement into pieces. My eyes calm. The dead are gone. I worry there will be unnecessary trouble later. The day Serena was sentenced was the day of Andrew's funeral. As his legal wife, I handled everything personally. Everyone praised me for being a woman of righteousness and loyalty. Even though Andrew betrayed the marriage, cheated with Serena, and bought her countless expensive jewels and luxury goods, I still silently loved him, kept his only flesh and blood, and quietly raised his daughter, without complaint. I accepted everyone's sympathy, standing in front of the mourning hall, head bowed, my body shaking violently. Everyone thought I was crying from excessive grief. Actually, I was shaking from excitement, thinking about inheriting billions in assets and holding shares with Mia. I couldn't control myself. Over the years, I clearly understood how important power and money were. So, until the funeral ended, I didn't look up. When I took Mia back to the Sterling mansion overnight, Mia sat beside me and asked curiously, "Mommy, why does Mia have to change her last name to Sterling?" She pursed her lips, looking very innocent. "Mommy isn't a Sterling, and I like Mommy best." I patted her head and smiled, not knowing how to explain. I looked up at the starry sky, feeling emotional in my heart. Life is unpredictable. No one knows when happiness will suddenly arrive. Anyway, what is lost. A bird that has flown away never looks back. Andrew's epilogue. I died too quickly. Too many regrets kept my soul from dispersing for a long time. Watching Victoria, not a day went by that I didn't regret. Why did I lose her for a moment of temptation? Why couldn't I lower my head to beg her because of my so-called pride? In those 5 years, I clearly missed her too. But I always felt Victoria couldn't leave me, that she would come to beg me, and my occasional uneasiness was ignored amidst the company of my first love. I wandered for a long time, only finally understanding that Mia was my daughter. I was incredibly happy, thinking I didn't die in vain. At least it proved Victoria still loved me, but gradually, I couldn't be happy anymore, because Victoria seemed to become a different person. She was no longer timid and cowardly. Instead, she bravely and firmly sat in the position of company president. Even when my elderly parents used threats and bribes, she didn't waver. Even after taking power, she used every means to acquire the Jennings family business. Actually, there were many things she didn't understand, but she learned as if her life depended on it. Several times, she almost vomited blood at drinking tables to win over directors. And that man named Ethan came to find Victoria a few times. He was firmly rejected by her. At that time, she stood high up in the office building, her tone calm. "Didn't we agree? Acting just for the sake of each other's children. You were just making up for the lack of fatherly love for my daughter." Conversely, I was serious about Rocky too. I really treated him like my own child. But now, it's all over, isn't it? Before I could rejoice, I discovered Victoria used money to keep a young, handsome male celebrity. At night she indulged in passion with the man. By day, she remained the perfect mother, the successful woman. From monstrous hatred at the beginning, I became numb. Before the last wisp of my soul dissipated, I was thinking, if I had loved Victoria properly as soon as we got married, would things not have developed this way? If only.